Hello guys, welcome to Veterinary Studies YouTube channel. I am Mohammad Azhar Meeman. This is a series of lectures on veterinary anatomy. Topic which I am going to discuss today is important to learn different parts and structures of a bone in a skeletal system. Today's our topic is terms which are used in osteology. These are the terms which I am gonna discuss with suitable example. Let's start. So, the first term is process. In osteology, process is a general term for the prominence or any extension in a bone. An example, I have given a picture of a vertebrae. The lateral and dorsal extension of a vertebrae is known as process. Like the lateral extension of a vertebrae bone is known as transverse process, whereas dorsal extension is known as spinous process. Tuberosity. Tuberosity is a large, rough, round projection or elevation on the surface of bone. At the shaft of a humerus bone, there is a large round projection or elevation which is known as deltoid tuberosity. Tubercle. Tubercle is a small round projection or elevation on the surface of bone. At the proximal end of a humerus bone, there are two tubercles, greater tubercle and lesser tubercle. If we compare the tuberosity and tubercle, tuberosity is a large rough round projection, whereas tubercle is a small round projection. Tuberosity is larger in size, whereas tubercle is a smaller in size. Trochanter. Trochanter is a term which is applied for the few prominence. An example, I have given a picture of a proximal end of a femur bone. There are two trochanters at the femur bone. This one is a greater trochanter and this one is a lesser trochanter. If we compare the tuberosity and tubercle with trochanter, tuberosity and tubercle have only one large prominence, whereas trochanters have few prominence. Head. Head is also known as caput. It is a round articular enlargement at the end of the bone. Head is always at the proximal end of a bone. Head form a complex joint, like head of the humerus bone form a shoulder joint by uniting with glenoid cavity of a scapula bone, and head of the femur bone form a hip joint by uniting with acetabulum of Osteology. An example, I have given a picture of a head of the femur. This one is the head of a femur. Neck. Neck is a constricted part of the head which may join to the shaft, which means neck join the head and body of the bone. This is the neck of a femur bone. Spine. The term spine is used for any point projection on the bone. Like I have given a picture of a scapula bone. At the lateral surface of a scapula bone, there is a spine which divide the lateral surface of a scapula into two fossas. This one is a supraspinous fossa and this one is a infraspinous fossa. Crest. Crest is a shallow linear elevation on the surface of a bone. I have given a picture of a Osteology bone of a cattle, and this one is a crest of a ilium. Osteology is made up of three bones, ilium, ischium and pubis bone. At the ilium bone, there is a crest known as crest of a ilium. Line. Lines are the linear elevation on the surface of the bone. These are the lines. Foramen. Foramen is a perforation or any opening for the transmission of blood vessels and nerves. In a skull, there are number of foramens by which arteries, nerves and other structures are enter and exit. In the skull, there is a foramen at the base of the skull known as foramina magnum, through which spinal cord passes or arises. An example, I have given a picture of a Osteology bone. There are two foramen in an Osteology bone called obturator foramen. These are the largest foramen in the body of animal. Meatus. Meatus is a tubular opening or passage in the body of the bone. Like in this picture, this is a nasal bone of a horse. There are nasal passage in the body of the bone. Like this one is a middle meatus and this one is a dorsal meatus. Fissure. Fissure is a long, narrow opening in a bone. An example, I have given a picture of a cattle skull. These two are palatine fissures. Fossa. Fossa is any kind of a depression on the surface of a bone. An example, lacrimal fossa in the eye socket of a human skull. Another example, coronoid fossa at the distal end of a humerus bone. Fovea. Fovea is a pit or non-articular surface on the head of the bone. This is a picture of a proximal end of a femur bone, and there is a non-articular surface at the end of a femur bone called fovea capitis. Trochlea. Trochlea is a term which denotes pulley-like articular mass. This is a distal end of a humerus bone, and these are the trochlea. Glenoid cavity. Glenoid cavity is a shallow articular depression in a scapula bone. This is a glenoid cavity, and glenoid cavity forms a shoulder joint by uniting with head of the humerus bone. Cotyloid or acetabulum. Acetabulum is a deeper articular depression in a pelvis bone. This is a pelvis bone, and there is a deeper articular depression in a pelvis bone called acetabulum. Head of the femur fixed in this acetabulum to form a hip joint. Sulcus. Sulcus is a depression or groove on the surface of a bone. Like at the humerus bone, there is a shallow depression called sulcus, which is also known as groove or furrow. Facet. Facet are the articular surfaces of a small extent, especially when they are not strongly concave or convex. Simply, facet are the part or surface of a bone which is facing toward the joint. That's why they are called facet. Semifacet. Semifacets are the semi or partially articular surfaces of a bone. This is a picture of a vertebra. This part of a vertebra is called costal facet, which form a costovertebral joint between vertebrae and ribs. This is also a facet which is facing toward another vertebrae to form intervertebral joint. This is another picture of a vertebrae. This is a costal facet. This one is a semifacet, and this facet is facing toward another vertebrae bone. Sinus or antrum. The term sinus denotes any air cavity. These are the sinuses which are found in the skull of animal. Guttural pouch is a structure which is highly developed in equines, and the function of a guttural pouch is to cool down the blood while exercising or racing. Malleolus. The term malleolus denotes any flattened projection. This is a picture of a human foot. These are the tibia fibula bone. At the distal end of a tibia bone, there is a flattened projection at the medial side, which is known as medial malleolus. Whereas at the distal end of a fibula bone, there are two lateral and posterior flattened projection called lateral malleolus and posterior malleolus. Ramus. The term ramus is used for any bridge-like structure. In the skull of a human, there is a bridge-like structure called ramus. Ala. Ala denotes a wing-shaped surface of a bone. This is a picture of a pelvis bone of a human. Pelvis bone is composed of three bones: ilium, ischium, and pubis bone. This part of a ilium bone is a wing shape, therefore it is known as ala. Cornua. The term cornua means horn or any horn-like extension of a bone. An example, I have given a picture of a hyoid bone. These are the cornua of a hyoid bone. This one is a greater horn or greater cornua. This one is a lesser horn or lesser cornua. This is all about today's lecture. Our next lecture will be on descriptive osteology on different bones. I hope you like this lecture. If you like this lecture, press like button. If you want a latest update regarding my YouTube channel, press bell icon, and don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you.